uhloniphe nobuwena ukuthi asikhuluma indaba ezibaleka ngaka zokuhlupheka kwabantu abasha eNingizimu Afrika and your only solution ukuzongihahameza ungitshena ukuthi ngiyabheda. I think now finally yourself you must fall. We are out of order ungqongqoshe wonke kahulumeni. Indlela oziphethe ngayo igculisi neze neze. Umdala kangaka uzothi ngiyabheda. Ungqongqoshe wonke athi ngiyabheda umdala kangaka. Unjani nje uhloniphe nobu.
All right, Mkhuleko Hlengwa there, on fire in Parliament as it has come to be expected, and indeed not a surprise at all that he has been elected or appointed as the new chairperson of what is a very, very important subcommittee of Parliament, or parliamentary committee rather, of public accounts, holding government departments, the executive in particular, to account. Mr. Hlengwa, good evening to you.
Good evening, JJ, and to the viewers.
Congratulations on a very, very important appointment of yours as chairperson of SCOPA, and we wish you well.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated, and I hope that moving forward we'll have a healthy working relationship as we try and strengthen our stakeholder engagements, because the media is an integral part of public accounts. If we were to create a healthy system of checks and balances and in the pursuit of good governance and accountability.
Absolutely. Your appointment is well deserved, and I'm quite sure that you will rise to the occasion. You have already started by pointing a finger at the municipalities. We have just recently received a report, a very worrying report from the Auditor General, indicating so many municipalities essentially unable to handle their finances in an appropriate manner, failing to come up with clean audits, and therefore pointing to a big malaise that is not getting better. Every year we get in all these big figures. What do you think is going to be an approach to try and clamp down on this clearly a runaway wildfire on wasteful expenditure in particular, Mr. Hlengwa?
Well, there's a vast array of issues that need to be spoken to if we want to get municipalities right. One is about ensuring that the right requisite skills are actually in place in municipalities to build up institutional capacity and ensure that people are fit for purpose. So human resource management in the main in municipalities needs to be looked at, because we have recognized that a number of shortcomings arise out of people being employed into positions which they do not qualify for, simply because they fail to adhere to due process. A point in case is that the Auditor General makes the finding that quite a number of the financial statements that were prepared for submission for audit were inconsistent with the reporting format. Now, that on one hand is worrying, but what compounds the problem on the other hand is that some municipalities in the main, in total, paid about 907 million rands to consultants to prepare these financial statements.
Goodness.
So one, you have people who recognize that they do not have the capacity for the work that they're doing, and so they're outsourcing it. What is even worse is then to outsource this to people who are just as incompetent, because even those financial statements prepared by these consultants were also inconsistent with the reporting format. So I highlight that and flag that as an indication of the broader challenge within municipalities. Secondly, we are dealing with a total disregard of due process in the awarding of tenders, one. But secondly, the contract management system of our municipalities is highly, highly compromised, and that is a problem. Thirdly, we're dealing with municipal councillors who are not fit for purpose themselves, and are allowing municipal officials to run rings up around them, having them in 6 and 9s, and that is a problem. Fourthly, we are extremely concerned at the high levels of instability within municipalities, particularly around those who are senior management. It is evident in the audit outcomes that municipalities that have got strong stability, sustained stability in the manner that the municipal manager has been there three years on average to 4 years, those municipalities tend to do better equally with the CFO. But where there's high turnover, you've got these problems, and of course because the action plans for turnaround find themselves on the desk of a new person at any given time, and so they'll want to tweak and adjust it. So implementation is stalled because there's continuous theorizing. I think I must finally point out, JJ and the viewers, is that the Auditor General has flagged 48 municipalities which it determines require special intervention either from national or provincial government. And he has done an age analysis of over 3 years and finds that these municipalities which he has cited in 3 areas require attention. One, you're dealing with historic disclaimed or adverse audit opinions without a turnaround, without any strong and sufficient political will, but also a lack of administrative will, particularly to respond to management letters and the interventions being brought by government, particularly COCTA. Secondly, is a general problem of poor financial health in these municipalities and inability to just maintain issues. And the final area of concern is around unauthorized, irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure, which is on the increase. And I think it would be beneficial, JJ, if I can just in about 10 seconds take you through the extent to which fruitless, irregular, and wasteful expenditure has been a problem. In the year,
by the way, while talking about that one of the difficulties is that politicians don't seem to realize that the fruitless and wasteful expenditure can actually be categorized as corruption. They always try to make a difference that says, no, this is not as bad as it sounds from the Auditor General's report.
No, that's true, but we have adopted an approach at SCOPA that every cent counts. So for so long as there's any expenditure which is outside the MFMA municipalities and the PFMA government departments and entities at national and provincial level and national treasury regulations will need our attention. So year on year, South African municipalities as it stands now, in the category of irregular expenditure, we have got an accumulated irregular expenditure of 62.7 billion rand.
Sure.
And unauthorized expenditure accumulated so far stands at 38 billion rand, and fruitless and wasteful expenditure stands at 4.1 billion rand. Now, this is if this does not raise eyebrows, then I don't know what will. And so the approach we are adopting then says to us, we need to start with the historic and perpetual persistent offenders, and the AG has flagged 17 municipalities that have either received adverse or disclaimed audit opinions for 3 consecutive years or more. And so we are laying now a roadmap which leads to parliamentary hearings in this regard so that we can actually have those municipal managers as the accounting officers and the executive authorities in the form of mayors appearing before us to explain, so that we can actually find solutions to what is now a perennial headache in the space of auditing. Because it's very clear that for so long as we don't take action, then we must put a spotlight on this to highlight the extent of the problem, because municipalities are at the cold face of service delivery, and so that is why we're prioritizing them.
You've raised a very, very important issue, and that's what I want us to explore some more. In about 2009, I'm not sure whether you're already in Parliament.
No, I wasn't. I arrived in 2012.
Yeah, the SCOPA then, under your predecessor, received a very startling report, right, that indicated that about 2,000 civil servants were found to be doing business with themselves. You've highlighted amongst the things that you've said today, the whole issue of the disregard for tender processes. And so one of the malaise that was identified by SCOPA before was that there are civil servants, whether be it DGs or municipal managers in the sense of municipalities, who do business with themselves, right? Now, the trouble is those people, and in this case, and in the case of the report I'm talking about, there were 2,000 of such people in one financial year. Nothing happened to them. Nothing happened to them. SCOPA received the report from the AG or from whoever else they received it. And as we speak now, those people are not listed in the corruption report. They have not been fired from their jobs. And this is part of the trouble, lack of consequences. How are you going to change that?
Well, consequence management is a key priority area for the committee for the next 5 years, rather. Because we have realized that for so long as we point to issues but do not act on them, then we have done a half-baked exercise. Yeah. So we are already in the process of interacting with the State Security Agency, and I've already dispatched a letter to the Inspector General and the Minister of State Security, wanting a progress report on the vetting of personnel in the SCM sector and the public service as per the Cabinet Resolution of 2014 as the first phase of pushing back on the frontiers of conflict of interest in the supply chain sector. Because we found this to be prevalent in departments such as the police, for example. It was extremely concerning in SAPS, and we recognized that SSA, the State Security Agency, had not made significant headway in the vetting processes. So we are in communication with that department, and I'm pretty certain that by no later than September, we would have had a hearing with them for them to come and explain.
Okay, Mr. Hlengwa, I need to take a break now. Please stay on the line. I want us to explore some more the issue of consequence management. One of the things that we thought as the public would improve that situation is additional powers to the Attorney General, so that rather the Auditor General, so that he doesn't just make findings, but is able to take action against those who have failed, in a sense, to follow the law in as far as financial management is concerned. We'll talk about that after the break. We're talking to Mr. Hlengwa, who is the chairperson of SCOPA in Parliament. He has kindly agreed to discuss with us how he intends to tackle some of the work that's facing him, especially in the context of the terrible report of the Auditor General indicating terrible mismanagement of finances in municipalities. Let's take a break now. right, welcome back to Your View with me, JJ Tawan. You can follow our show, of course, on hashtag Your View on 405. And of course, you can also send us your WhatsApps and tweets. You can tweet us at JJ Tabani at Newsroom Africa 405. Of course, we will from time to time get to your tweets. Of course, the WhatsApp number on your screens as well. If you want to send us some WhatsApp to interact, to tell us what your views are about issues that we discussed here on Your View on Newsroom Africa. Of course, we welcome this week viewers from all over the continent. I received so many messages from Addis Ababa, from Eritrea, from Botswana, from Lesotho. It's amazing how many of you out there in our beautiful continent are following here on Newsroom Africa. So we thank you so much. Ntate Hlengwa, welcome back.
Thank you, Bob.
Let's talk about consequences. Let's talk a little bit about consequences. A lot of DGs and municipal managers sadly don't seem to take SCOPA seriously, purely from a point of view that they'll come there, they'll be grilled, it will all be all over the media, and you will be taking out the big stick, and then nothing happens. They just get away with it. How are we going to change that culture?
Well, I think the expanded mandate from the Auditor General is part of our enablers as a committee, because what we have tried to do and will continue to do is to expand the scope of the entities that we work with. So our interaction with the NPA, the Anti-Corruption Task Team, the Hawks, SARS, National Treasury, and of course the Auditor General are all part and parcel of ensuring that we effect maximum consequence management. And what is required, of course, is political will also on the part of ministers and the president to make sure that as the executive authorities, they are able to do the work which is required of them. Portfolio committees in Parliament are responsible for the month-on-month and quarter-to-quarter reporting of government departments and entities, and so that is part of it. But I think in the main, all of this is now anchored in the first step of this approach, and the expanded mandate of the Auditor General is important. So where material irregularity has been identified, and I think it's important that we go through that, is that the material irregularity will be referred to the relevant entity and public body for further investigation, and that the decision to take binding action is no longer negotiable. And so the AG now makes that determination on the material finding. The accounting officer, if they do not implement remedial action, a certificate of debt will be issued to them. So there will now be a direct charge to individuals. And because for the longest of time, there has been an ongoing culture whereby individuals absolve themselves and blame the system.
Yeah.
But systems are managed by individuals. Systems collapse because individuals have not performed their respective functions. So we want to give full support to the AG on this matter and make sure that it actually happens. But I think, JJ, it's also important that one highlights that the AG is also under siege, given the fact and the extent to which there are attacks, threats, and intimidation towards
his staff. I wanted to talk about that to say, what are you going to do about that?
So the interaction we're going to be having with the law enforcement agencies will be about the protection of auditors. And this speaks to a functional intelligence sector as well. We need to have intelligence in South Africa that can be able to pick up these things before they happen, because auditing is part of the project of good governance. And so we need the auditors to be able to have free reign within the law and to be able to do their work. Etegwini, where this happened, where the auditors were intimidated, is a classical case study of why the auditors were intimidated and threatened when you look at the chaos and mess which is prevailing in that municipality as well.
Absolutely. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about you know, what you consider as top priorities for SCOPA, given all of these challenges. I mean, let's start off with something that you mentioned at the beginning of the interview. The issue of poor capacity talks about whether we're putting the right people in the right places. In other words, if you dealt with that kind of issue, you are preventing future collapse and theft. And I'm not saying that where there's capacity, there may not be theft. But where there's no capacity, clearly there's more theft, as it is proved in the reports that we have seen by the Auditor General. Is there something we can learn, even from the discussions that we have seen happening at the State of Capture report, about how we deal with this whole issue of cadre deployment? Because I think that is beginning to show that it sits at the heart of some of the failures at some of these municipalities.
No, that is true, the fact that there's a lack of capacity if you look at what the Auditor General is saying. But I would also want to play devil's advocate and throw a spanner into the works into this, to say, whilst we lament the prevalence of a lack of capacity, at the same time we are not dealing with stupid people. We are dealing here with people who can bypass the system. So they're smart enough to know the loopholes in the system. They're smart enough to override the system and be able to fulfill their corrupt agendas. So it is quite evident that the understanding of the law is there. One of the challenges is that we are dealing with people who are hell-bent on undermining the law that they know. So when we're speaking about skills and capacity, we must also factor in the fact that there's other forces at play which will want to abuse the system. It's very clear, JJ, that officials also, whilst they are not wholly innocent, but it's clear that they are also at the receiving end of political pressure, which is undue, which is interference, and which compromises on the collective integrity of process. And so these are all the issues that we need to deal with.
Absolutely.
There is a process which COCTA had set into motion, which wanted to raise the bar of minimum standards and qualifications. We are awaiting a report on that. And let me hasten to say, though, because there's been some very silly criticism in certain quarters, that all we are saying for now is that we are receiving reports and so on. Yes, we are receiving reports because we're a newly established committee, and we want to make sure that we take informed decisions on the basis of information before us. And so maybe it would be opportune at this moment also for me to invite the public to make recommendations to us as a committee in terms of how they see how we should do our work, because essentially we are not a silver bullet. We rely on a multi-pronged approach and the multiplicity of stakeholders for us to be effective and efficient in the execution of our responsibilities.
Are there some outstanding matters from the previous committee that's been handed over to you? I understand you are a new committee.
Yeah, they are. In fact, we adopted the legacy report last week as a committee. SCOM is one of them. I've already sent correspondence to the board, and they've already replied, and we are processing the information that they've given us. We have sent further requests for information. SABC is one of those, and there were contracts which were questionable there. There were appointments that were questionable there. The Department of Public Works, we are dealing with the human resource matter, which is anchored in an inability to follow due process, and the ramifications of that in terms of finances and just the holistic integrity of good governance is in question. And the SOEs, insofar as FAA is concerned, are also on our radar, arising out of outstanding matters. Water and sanitation remains a perennial headache. The department has virtually collapsed, and I'm glad that the new minister has been bold enough to make that admission, which had really been the outlook of the previous committee. So water and sanitation will need to be within our purview as things stand at this point, because we don't have time because in September, all the annual reports and the audit outcomes for government departments and entities will be tabled to Parliament, and we receive over 300 of them. So all these outstanding matters, which I'm referring to, will have to be finalized, or a process will have to be in motion by the time we get to September to begin now doing the work of the 6th Parliament. So there is a race against time, and there's quite a number of issues really before us. And the audit outcomes of municipalities have compounded our problem because they are now adding really to the plate.
Mr. Hlengwa, you got a full plate. Your plate is terribly full. We will, of course, continue to engage with you, and we hope you can come when you are in Johannesburg. Please do come and visit us so we can have a full conversation.
I'm readily available. All I would just like to call for, really, JJ, is that we appreciate the interactions we have with yourselves in the media and with the public, because what we do not want to do is to have a closed door policy. So as a committee, we are saying for an open door, because these are public funds, and so public funds require public participation, and so far as oversight and accountability is concerned. Thank you very much.
Mr. Hlengwa, we appreciate your time, and I wish you well in the work that you have to do. And of course, I hope to see you soon.
And absolute pleasure. Thanks to you, JJ, and the viewers. Good night.
Mr. Hlengwa, the new chairperson of SCOPA, truly sounding like he's already on top of his work, just in terms of the understanding of what is required. Clearly, the committee having a lot to deal with. If it's not municipalities, it's parastatals, and then government departments that have collapsed. It's a full agenda. And as I said there, we wish him very well here in Newsroom Africa, and of course we'll be there to support the good work that he is doing. After the break and after the news, we are at the round table with communicators, Lorato Tsenkeng, William Bird, and who are going to come and help me understand the role of the media in all of the sagas that are carrying on, especially the issue of state capture. Stay tuned.